Hello, this is Papa B reading again, and I am continuing with chapter 10, which is titled The First Joke and Other Matters, from The Magician's Nephew, which is the first one of the books in the HarperCollins, The Complete Chronicles of Narnia, written by C.S. Lewis. And again, this is the second part, and I begin. "Oh, please, please," said Diggory, "could we get on? The lion's getting further and further away, and I do want to speak to him so dreadfully badly." "Look here, Strawberry," said the cabby. "This young gentleman has something on his mind that he wants to talk to the lion about. Him you call Aslan. Suppose you was to let him ride on your back, which he'd take very kindly, and trot him over to where the lion is. And me and a little girl will be following along." "Ride," said Strawberry. "Oh, I remember now. That means sitting on my back. I remember there used to be a little one of you two-leggers who used to do that long ago. He used to have little hard square lumps of some white stuff that he gave me. They tasted, oh, wonderful, sweeter than grass." "Ah, that'd be sugar," said the cabby. "Please, Strawberry," begged Diggory, Do let me get up and take me to Aslan." "Well, I don't mind," said the horse. "Not for once in a way. Up you get." "Good old Strawberry," said the cabby. Young one, I'll give you a lift." Diggory was soon on Strawberry's back and quite comfortable, for he had ridden bareback before on his own pony. "Now, do gee up, Strawberry," he said. "You don't happen to have a bit of that white stuff about you, I suppose," said the horse. "No, I'm afraid I don't," said Diggory. "Well, it can't be helped," said Strawberry, and off they went. At that moment, a large bulldog who had been sniffing and stirring very hard said, "Look, isn't there another one of those queer creatures over there, beside the river, under the trees?" Then all the animals looked and saw Uncle Andrew standing very still among the rhododendrons and hoping he wouldn't be noticed. "Come on," said several voices. "Let's go and find out." So while Strawberry was briskly trotting away with Diggory in one direction and Polly and the cabby were following on foot, most of the creatures rushed for Uncle Andrew with roars, barks, grunts, and various noises of cheerful interest. We must now go back a bit and explain what the whole scene had looked like from Uncle Andrew's point of view. It had not made at all the same impression on him as on the cabby and the children. For what you see and hear depends a good deal on where you are standing. It also depends on what sort of a person you are. Ever since the animals had first appeared, Uncle Andrew had been shrinking further and further back into the thicket. He watched them very hard, of course, but he wasn't really interested in seeing what they were doing, only in seeing whether they were going to make a rush at him. Like the witch, he was dreadfully practical. He simply didn't notice that Aslan was choosing one pair out of every kind of beast. Only he saw, or thought he saw, was a lot of dangerous wild animals walking vaguely about, and he kept on wondering why the other animals didn't run away from the big lion. When the great moment came and the beast spoke, he missed the whole point for a rather interesting reason. When the lion had first begun singing, long ago when it was still quite dark, he had realized that the noise was a song, and he had disliked the song very much. It made him think and feel things he did not want to think and feel. Then when the sun rose and he saw that the singer was a lion, only a lion, as he said to himself, he tried his hardest to make believe that it wasn't singing and never had been singing, only roaring as any lion might in a zoo in our own world. "Of course it can't really have been singing," he thought. "I must have imagined it. I've been getting or I've been letting my nerves get out of order. Who ever heard of a lion singing? And the longer and more beautiful the lion sang, the harder Uncle Andrew tried to make himself believe that he could hear nothing but roaring. Now, the trouble about trying to make yourself stupider than you really are is that you are very often going to succeed. Uncle Andrew did. He soon did hear nothing but roaring in Aslan's song. Soon, he couldn't have heard anything else, even if he had wanted to. And when at last the lion spoke and said, "Narnia, awake!" he didn't hear any words. He only heard a snarl. And when the beast spoke in answer, he heard only barkings, growlings, bayings, and howlings. And when they laughed, well, you can imagine, that was worse for Uncle Andrew than anything that had ever happened yet. Such a horrid, bloodthirsty din of hungry and angry brutes he had never heard in his life. Then, to his utter rage and horror, he saw the other three humans actually walking out into the open to meet the animals. "The fools," he said to himself. "Now those brutes will eat the rings along with the children, and I'll never be able to get home. What a selfish little boy that Diggory is, and the others are just as bad. If they want to throw away their own lives, that's their business, but what about me? They don't seem to think of that. No one thinks of me." Finally, when a whole crowd of animals came rushing toward him, he turned and ran for his life. And now anyone could see that the air of that young world was really doing the old gentleman good. In London, he had been far too old to run. Now he ran at a speed which would have made him certain to win the 100 yards race at any prep school in England. His coat-tails flying out behind him were a fine sight. But of course it was no use. Many of the animals behind him were swift ones. It was the first run they had ever taken in their lives, and they were all longing to use their muscles. After him, they shouted. "Perhaps he's that Neville. Tally-ho! 10 tivy! Cut him off! Round him up! Keep it up! Hurrah!" In a very few minutes, some of them got ahead of him. They lined up in a row and barred his way. Others hemmed him in from behind. Wherever he looked, he saw terrors. Antlers of great elks and the huge face of an elephant towered over him. Heavy, serious-minded bears and boars grunted behind him. Cool-looking leopards and panthers, with sarcastic faces, as he thought, stared at him and waved their tails. What struck him most of all was the number of open mouths. The animals had really opened their mouths to pant. He thought they had opened their mouths to eat him. Uncle Andrew stood trembling and swaying this way and that. He had never liked animals at the best of times, being usually rather afraid of them, and of course years of doing cruel experiments on animals had made him hate and fear them far more. "Now, sir," said the bulldog in his businesslike way, "are you animal, vegetable, or mineral?" That was what it really said, but all Uncle Andrew heard was "Growl." And that completes the second part of Chapter 10, the first joke and other matters, in the book The Magician's Nephew. Thank you for listening, and please come back and let me read to you again.